Welcome to the Marriage Steps podcast, where developing a long-lasting, happy relationship is the status symbol to achieve, and following my 6 marriage steps is a path to help get you there. I'm your host, Dr. Wyatt Fisher, a licensed psychologist specializing in marriage counseling. The Marriage Steps podcast is listener-supported, so to help keep it on the air so couples worldwide can receive hope for their marriage, please consider becoming a monthly supporter by going to patreon.com/marriage steps. Also, be sure to call my new number, 720-307-7347, and leave your marriage question in the voicemail, and then I'll respond to it on the next Marriage Steps podcast. So today we have Doug Hehner and Jamie Otis from the popular reality series Married at First Sight, and they host the podcast Hot Marriage, Cool Parents. So welcome, Doug. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Yeah.
happy to be here.
Thanks for being a part of the Marriage Steps podcast. So I have 5 questions that I like to ask couples when I interview them, because it's interesting to see how couples respond differently to these same 5 questions. And since my podcast is about marriage steps, so it's always very practical and action-oriented, so I like going through steps. So the first question is just a basic one. So what's the history of your marriage? So we can know more about how you guys met, how long you've been together, all that stuff.
Okay, yeah.
We've known each other for as long as we've been married.
It's very true. Not a second more or a second less.
Nope.
We were married as complete strangers on the show that's on Lifetime. It's called Married at First Sight. We were season 1, so it's been 6.5 years now. So we're like dinosaurs in the show land. So we both decided that it's kind of a long story, but essentially, like, I was having trouble dating in Manhattan, and my husband Doug, he lived in New Jersey, and what happened was they like set up I guess like cold calls and whatnot through the tri-state area, and they said, hey, if you're struggling dating in this area, let us know. And if you're interested in having help, let us know. And so long story short, it turns out that it's actually marriage. And there's these 4 experts who are really going to analyze you and a whole pool of people within your area to see if you would be scientifically a great match. And so, at first of all, I didn't think I was actually going to get a match. So I was like, okay, sure. And then here we are, excuse me. Then here we are 6.5 years later. So,
So this is like an arranged marriage kind of thing.
Yeah.
The way that it was set up in the beginning was these experts were going to do a deep dive into your background, your sexual history, psychological history, and then they're going to project forward. So what are your goals? What are your morals? What are your deal breakers? What do you imagine your wife? How do you imagine her looking? How do you imagine her thinking? So it was an opportunity, and not everybody saw it this way, but it was an opportunity to say, okay, instead of it being scary, where it's just like, I can't marry a stranger, like that's just ridiculous. I was in the mindset, well, I can paint the perfect picture of a wife. And based on that information, if there is somebody in that group that you find is a perfect fit, then this person would probably be someone that I would, really enjoy being with.
Wow.
And it sounds crazy, but when you met the experts and when you saw the due diligence as far as getting your background, your deal breakers, everything, it was an opportunity to find someone that you may not have ever met in your life, but scientifically, based on their algorithm and based on their professional experience with people and minds and relationships, they match up, and here we are 6 years later, 2 kids later, and
Here I am.
That is
I'm
wild.
the one.
That's wild.
this
What a
is
story.
exactly how I pictured her.
No one has that kind of story, So
That's true.
That's really fun. So what happens like on this show? So you guys are you're set up and they say, okay, this is your mate forever. Like, can you back out, or like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, I mean, technically you could back out. They don't force you to go through with it, but it is a legally binding marriage. So, like you would have to, I guess, maybe get an annulment. I don't
or
know.
a divorce. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to get a divorce. Like
the way the show was set up, it was going to be kind of like a documentary. So it wasn't like we were going to go on some grand vacation or some trip somewhere to get to know each other. It was going to be, okay, let's throw these two on a brief honeymoon and then let's bring them back to the real world, move in together. We're going to film before and after work, and we'll have this kind of schedule for the next 6 weeks and do like couple and marriage things and see if this can work out. And it was not anything that was fake or set up. It was like, okay, this is going to be season 1 in the United States. We don't have anything to go off of other than this show originated in Denmark, and they have different customs and everything, but it was, let's see if this can work. And after 6 weeks, you decide whether you want to stay married or get a divorce.
So you had a 6-week trial run.
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The years must have gone well, the 6-week trial run.
I mean, it wasn't smooth sailing, but yeah.
I literally had a panic attack on our wedding day, and I thought I made the worst decision of my life by marrying a stranger. And so it was definitely not smooth sailing, but I mean, obviously 6.5 years later, we have 2 beautiful children, and we're still here.
Yeah. So how long did it take? So you're married, and then how long did it take to really feel like you knew each other, even though you were already married?
About a year or so, probably.
I gotta be honest, like, I feel like, I don't know if you feel like this as someone who's married as well, but I feel like I'm still learning so much more about my husband, and 6 years later, like every time I think that I know him so well, then I'm like, oh wait, like, do I know him? Like, there's always something, like, we're ever changing, and I don't know. But like, I would say, but like to be like really comfortable with each other, and you know what I mean? Like, and not be strangers, I guess. I wouldn't even say it took a year. Well, actually, yeah, probably a year.
Wow. Fascinating. Okay. So here's the second question. So what is some of the best advice you have been given about marriage?
Be an open book and keep the communication going. Don't hold anything in. Don't hold secrets. Don't hold anything back, because that can destroy any relationship. And when you feel comfortable opening up in front of somebody and just, laying it all out there and somebody accepts you, that's when your marriage and love can really grow.
Mm-hmm. And how did that work for you, Doug, with marrying Jamie, who is a stranger? How long did that take you to really start opening up and being transparent?
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, he really truly is.
Work in progress.
Which is the reason why pretty much all my relationships in the past had failed, was because I just was, I get over things easily. I'm a very calm, easygoing person, which also means that I just don't really open up because everything's sort of fine to me, and the show kind of forced a lot of the conversations that we would have, which I may just try to avoid. So it was something that I had to get past. It was something that both of us, I think, needed to get past. We both have, everybody has their things that happen to them. And it's just, what do you feel comfortable telling? And when do you consider this person not a stranger to really open up and let it all out? And I think it was just a gradual process for me, but I'm still working on it.
Yeah. So how do you discern, since you're an easygoing kind of guy, how do you discern, okay, this thing I'm feeling or thinking, I can probably let that go, versus this, what I'm feeling and thinking, I need to bring this one up? Like, how do you discern that for yourself?
I think it's in the past, it was little things that may bother me or that I may do that would bother somebody else, that, just for a random example, if I didn't tell her that something bothered me or that it's starting to be annoying and I just kept letting it go, each time is going to get more and more frustrating for me, where I would avoid it. And then all of a sudden it would just be me just seeing this, just something that would really bother me. And how is she supposed to know to really change that behavior? Or how is she supposed to know that it bothers me and I'm feeling a certain way about this when I haven't expressed to her what that is? And that was the part, you can create very bad habits. And if you have no idea what's going on inside your partner's head, you don't know to change it. You don't know how to compromise to it.
Sure. What about you, Jamie? What's it been like for you opening up and sharing what's going on inside of you?
Yeah. I mean, I am definitely more of an open book than he is. Like I will just spill my warts and, flaws to everybody.
She doesn't have warts, by the way.
But no, I mean, I just know that for like when I was younger, I definitely hid a lot of like my mom struggled with dependency issues. And so she, I ended up getting custody of my siblings when I was a freshman in college. And so I hid that from the world because I was so embarrassed. And I thought that like people would judge me for it. They would automatically assume that I'm probably a drug addict also because my mom is, and or I don't know, just things like that. And so I never really was open until this experiment where like to be very honest, I was on The Bachelor prior to this and I hid all that. Like I tried my best to hide as much as I could because I was so ashamed and embarrassed. And it was debilitating. I mean, it was literally all consuming. I couldn't even be myself. Like it was just so exhausting. And so when they cold called me, I was like, I'm not doing another show like The Bachelor. Like, it's just not for me. But like Doug said, it's more of a docuseries, and it was done it was presented as an experiment, and I'm a labor and delivery nurse. And so the whole idea behind this experiment was that it was scientific, and it was like, we're going to actually analyze these people in the tri-state area, and we're going to like find one who is on paper could be a perfect match, see if that will work out. But we're also going to kind of hold your hand throughout the process. And given just everything that's happened in my life and what I've experienced, to me, like this sounds nuts, but I was like, wow, what a great opportunity. Like I'm going to have these like experts help me like know how to have a healthy relationship, because growing up, I just witnessed my stepdad like literally beating the snot out of my mom and like hold a gun to her head and just crazy things. And so I definitely had some like issues with trust and whatnot. And so when you talk about opening up, I really did. I was like, if you can find a man who's going to love me with all this baggage that I'm bringing into this relationship, I mean, I just spilled it all. Like I had went for such a long time hiding everything and trying to pretend to be really someone I'm not and from some place that I'm not, just to try to fit in. And then, I was like, I'm not going to do that again. Like I'm going to spill it all. And if you can genuinely help me find someone who will love me and all of these quote unquote warts or flaws or baggage, then, then I'm going to give this a shot. And then there he is. Like, I mean, I don't know, like it worked out for us. I think because first of all, we both really wanted marriage. And so it wasn't always easy, of course, but we stuck with it. And obviously we didn't even always love each other because we didn't even know each other, but we still stuck with it. And I think that that's kind of maybe like a take home message. Like if you're like, for me anyways, like sorry, Doug, I had real high expectations, but I was like, if he's not beating me and if he's not like emotionally abusing me or like, and I mean, let me see if I can try to make this work, because apparently according to paper, like this guy could be great for me. And I mean, it didn't take very long for me to start to have the butterflies and, the whole thing. So anyways, being really open really is like so important, I think, in a relationship.
Sure. I mean, it's must have been an interesting experience to have the scientists saying this person would be a great match for you, because that probably gave you a lot of confidence and like, well, even if I'm having second thoughts, maybe I'm wrong, because all these other scientists are saying this could be a great chance for you with this person.
That's 100% it. Like, because like I said, on my wedding day, I definitely had a panic attack, and I was like, this is not, I just had such high expectations. I really envisioned that I would have like butterflies, and it was my wedding day. I mean, it's not, it was a legal marriage. So like I had my nieces were like the flower girls. My nephew was the ring bearer. Like, just really did this the real way that we're used to, but I didn't have any emotion towards my husband, the guy I was about to marry, because he was a stranger. But for me, it was very, very scary. But yeah, I mean, I think that like at the end of the day, I remember the producer was like, Jamie, but do you remember what Dr. Pepper said? And Dr. Pepper Schwartz, she's a sociologist, and I just really jived well with her. I felt like she wasn't like, this wasn't just like, I mean, she had her whole professionalism online. It wasn't like she was just doing some reality TV show, you know, like she's a professor at Washington State University. And I just really connected with her. And she told me that she thought this man that I was going to marry was so amazing and I was going to really like him and all these things. And so I had such high expectations. But then like on the wedding day, like it kind of helped reel me back in that like, wait a minute, like just because this isn't love at first sight, you know, like, I mean, they picked him for me for a reason and I kind of want to see why. And so it just kind of helped me continue on with the process. Yeah. Thank God, because otherwise I would have missed out on my amazing husband.
Yay.
Okay. So let's see. Next question. Number 3. What are some bad habits to watch out for in marriage?
Lying.
That's a good one. Like, I think or like secrets in general, like if you're trying to hide something from your spouse, that's probably a big red flag that you should have for yourself.
Like if you can't hand your spouse your phone and just let them play around with it for an hour, then you're hiding something.
Yeah. And if that's the case, you might want to get right with yourself because your relationship is inevitably going to be, I feel like it's inevitably going to be destroyed. You have to be able to have like a full trust with each other.
Yeah. What are some common topics you think is most tempting for couples to start lying with each other?
Well, I think
probably money, or like for me early in the relationship, like lying means something different. I mean, lying at the end of the day is lying, but it means something different to everybody.
What do you mean by that?
So like for me, like the little white lies, or just like almost like the sarcasm, or just not being believed, doesn't hold as much weight in my mind as it does for my wife.
I think a lie is a lie is a lie.
Well, that's what I just said. But I'm saying, like, in the beginning of the relationship, I was trying to quit cigarettes, and I had a cigarette on my way home, and she called me out on it. And normally I'd be able to talk my way out of anything. And she was like, no, blah, blah, blah. And I just kept with it. I was like, I swear I didn't smoke a cigarette. And then,
lied.
You know, and then she was ready for divorce.
I really was. Well, we had only been married for a couple of weeks. And if he lied so adamantly, and I knew, I'm not stupid, you can smell if someone has a cigarette. Mm-hmm. Like we kissed each other and I could taste it. Like,
and it was just so silly. But that's one of those things.
But he definitely struggled with, white lies in the beginning, where he thought like these silly little lies meant nothing, because but to me, that is a trigger that maybe there's something, I don't know, more ominous coming in the future. If you're going to lie about cigarette smoking, like what else are you going to lie about? Like what else is up your sleeve that I don't know about? And we were so new in the marriage at that point. We were like 2 weeks into our marriage, or maybe 3, I guess. And I was like, this is kind of who I was, is that I would just leave the relationship. Like I was like, I don't know if I saw any sort of red flag that early, I was like, it's not worth my time and energy to invest in this relationship. I'm out. And so that was the nice thing about Married at First Sight, is that it literally, like, there is a psychologist there as well. And he didn't minimize my feelings. He didn't make me feel like worthless because I genuinely would have divorced him over a cigarette, but like, it's not that it wasn't just a cigarette. It wasn't that. It was the notion that he was lying, and that he felt so okay with looking me right in the eyes and like lying to me. So anyways, so it was helpful that, that we had a psychologist for the beginning of our marriage. But I would say, lying is definitely something that, you probably shouldn't do in a relationship, and, you shouldn't hide.
I forgot the question, honestly.
No, he asked what we shouldn't hide in a relationship, right?
Well, the question was what bad habits to watch out for in marriage. And
I said lying.
One bad habit.
Yeah. Clearly, we're really passionate about this.
Yeah. And it reminds me of the whole idea that, when you have a conflict, a lot of times in marriage, the conflict itself can sound kind of stupid or trite. However, the need underneath the conflict is not stupid at all.
Right.
Whether that need is for trust or respect, or to feel wanted, or to feel like we're a team, right? So always kind of going underneath, like what's underneath this for me. That's such a powerful way to look at it, because there's so much more going on usually than what's on the surface. And it also kind of connects to your guys' first point, which is the importance or the value of being transparent. because that also would include being honest, right? And that's part of being transparent, is saying what's really going on and being honest with what you're really doing. And so those connect really well, it sounds like.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
Any other bad habits that you guys have noticed you have done, or you've noticed in other couples that it's kind of like a red flag, like make sure you don't start thinking this is okay, but it turns into something really negative?
Do you think of anything, Doug?
I think like just not having each other's backs is also a telling sign. Like when you see a couple that's out and they're just like kind of like picking on each other, like as a competition or something like that, where it's almost like, well, why are you going back and forth? I don't know. That always kind of irked me, was when you have like there's cute little flirty type of back and forth that happen, but when you see people picking on each other just to pick on each other, and it just not being on the same team or the same page, is kind of detrimental to any marriage, I think.
Sure. Okay, good. Let's see. So number 4. So what's one of the toughest things you've faced in marriage that you haven't already talked about and that you feel comfortable sharing? And what lesson did you learn from it?
I feel like probably a lot of people you talk to probably are like, well, geez, where do I start? Which one? Because I feel like marriage can be difficult in many different ways. Of course, it's like rewarding as well, and that's what keeps you together. But I mean, the first thing I think that we ever went through together that was the most difficult, most trying in our marriage was, the loss of our first pregnancy, our first son. That was very, very difficult, primarily, obviously, because we lost him, but also we coped very differently, and we didn't know each other that well. We had been married for a year and a half at that point. And so, that's why I was saying earlier, when you asked, like, when do you feel like you really knew each other? I was like, geez, I feel like you're always learning, because
Sure.
I thought I knew him at a year. And then when we lost our son, like, I didn't know that he coped so differently than I did, like when it came to that type of a loss. And so, for him, he was literally like, we were literally in the hospital and I'm bleeding and he's working on his laptop. And I'm like, can you go get the nurse, please? Like, and then the day after I deliver him, he's at work and I'm literally at home, like a mess, can't even get out of like bed. No, like, I mean, literally like can't even move. And he's at work, and I'm like, I was so hurt and confused by it. And it took therapy to understand that, like, for him, he just has to keep moving. Like, like his way of coping was to almost like pretend like it didn't happen and just keep going day to day. I couldn't even move though. Like, so that could have like easily, we could have divorced over that, like, for sure. It really took therapy to understand that we have different coping mechanisms. And, it's not like that he's a heartless human being, that like doesn't care about me or our son. It's that, like, that was just how he dealt with the loss. And so, yeah, that was one difficult thing that we went through, and it took therapy for us to make it through that.
So it sounds like the therapy helped you understand the motive behind his behavior, so you didn't take it personal.
Yeah, and I think it could go both ways, though. I mean, I definitely, like, right now I am struggling with postpartum depression, and it's like this all-consuming thing. We have had 2 healthy babies since the loss of our son, thank God. And so, we just had a son, my second son, Hendrix. He's 5 months old, and
your pictures, by the way, on Instagram, I've seen your profile. Your pictures are always like perfect. They're so colorful, and like everyone just looks so great. Your pictures are wonderful.
That's so sweet of you to say that. Thank you. Yeah, I love being a mom. Like, that was my biggest goal in life ever. Not even to be married, but just to be a mom. But yeah, so after him, like, I've never struggled with this before, this like depression. Like, I mean, I've struggled with depression and anxiety, but like, it's a whole different ball game. I can't even explain it. It's very, very debilitating. And, I feel like that's something that again, like that's a struggle that he could judge me for, for like the fact that like I'm literally talking to you in my husband, like I'm wearing his shirt, my hair's in a greasy wad, like, like he could judge me and not feel attracted to me or whatever the case is. But I feel like he's been really kind to me and gentle with me when it comes to this type of thing. So there's a lot of different struggles I think that relationships have. And it's sometimes it's one partner who has to be more understanding and accepting and loving and I don't know,
empathetic,
flexible. Yeah.
Empathetic.
Yeah. And then other times you won't be the one who has to be that way. You're going to be looking for it from your spouse. And that's why it's so important that you're both able to be that way with one another, because maybe right now you're the one being that way, but in the future, your partner is probably gonna have to be that way towards you. So it's probably best that that you're on each other's page like that, if you know what I mean.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So I may be having a low season right now, but next year it might be you. And so
exactly. Yeah.
Treat each other the way you want to be treated.
Yeah. And stick with each other, because it's a lot, one thing that I've learned is that it's a lot easier to go through these types of things with the same person than to try to do it with someone new. Like truly, like I feel like you know each other, you understand each other so much more. And so I feel like a lot of times people like want to bow out at the hard part, because it's difficult to get through it. But man, when you get through it to the other side and you take all that knowledge you have with the same person, like the reward is like, it's just incredible, because by the next time you have the next struggle, you already have all of that foundation with the same person. And so it makes the difficult season a little less stressful, because you already have this like background base with the person.
Sure. So it's like the learning curve is shorter because you've already been through something similar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about you, Doug? What's been one of your biggest challenges and lessons learned?
I think, our marriage was a little bit unique in the sense that we were learning about each other as we were going through the beginning of our marriage. We grew up in two totally different atmospheres, and we would approach life in a very different way. And we would have a mindset going into something or any situation, and it would be totally different. There were some things that I would do, because I was, at the time I was living with my parents. I was just got a new job, just trying to get back, everything. And Jamie saw that, because she's been on her own for a while. Jamie would see that as sort of like me being dependent on my parents, or, just me being less of an adult because of this, where I never judged her on her past, where it was almost like, because I grew up in a certain way, I was being judged, even though it was kind of I almost felt like it was being judged because I had an okay upbringing and I didn't have a rough growing up. So it was just that approach to different situations, and not getting upset at each other for thinking one way or the other, but trying to understand where someone's coming from and just taking out all of the judgments at that point. And that's when the relationship can grow. And that's where I think are the experts for the show that we were on. I think they helped us understand that better.
Great. Yeah. So those judgments, they can really creep in there, right? Every step of the way. Are we each other? Are we judging? So good. Okay. Final question, number 5 here. So what pearl of wisdom would you like to share with other couples? So other couples listening to this, like what would be like a top takeaway that you would impart to other couples to encourage them in their relationships?
Wait till you get married to have sex, because that's what we did.
You guys had no choice.
Right? That's his favorite joke ever. No, it's interesting when someone asks us like what the key to our success is or anything of that nature, because I'm like, well, geez, we haven't been married that long. Like, I don't know that we are, pros over here. But I think that everybody, I feel like you should never discount anybody for any sort of knowledge that they can share, whether they've been, married for 6 months or 6 years, because we all learn something very quickly after you get married. I feel like, this whole conversation would lead up to this answer, which is essentially like, be gentle with your spouse, try to be empathetic with them, be on their team. And like, if you catch on that you guys are fighting and you're fighting against each other and not like with each other for a certain cause, like that's a big red flag. And it's not like, it's so normal, but it's like, after you like settle down a little bit, like maybe like get back together again and like talk about the fact that like chances are like you really are fighting for the same thing, but you just happen to be taking it out on one another. And I feel like a lot of people who like in any relationship, whether it's marriage or like even with your parents or whoever, your siblings, you could do that because you love them. But it's a dangerous slippery slope, because inevitably like you feel like you can be a little bit more critical and harder with the ones that you love, but it still hurts them. And so you have to be careful to do that. So I think that I guess like any sort of wisdom I would give is to A, be really, really honest about who you are, and then B, like accept your partner when they're honest about who they are, and try to work together. If you're having some sort of conflict, rather than like attack one another, like let the issue settle down a little bit, and then come back together and try to be a teammate to tackle the problem, rather than attacking each other, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Yeah. So if you find yourself at odds with each other, why are you fighting against each other instead of fighting with each other towards something else, like against something else that's kind of like the stressor in your life, instead of turning it into a conflict between you two?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Anything for you, Doug? Any final words of wisdom?
When life gets hectic and tough, and timing becomes an issue, make sure you schedule dates. Like put it in your calendar. Schedule dates, schedule time with your spouse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because if you don't, life is like a steamroller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Time starts to just fly by at that point.
Yeah.
And then here you are a year later and you've gone on 3 dates with each other. It's like fine time.
Speaking from experience.
It's amazing how much we schedule other things in our life, right? We schedule all sorts of appointments for all sorts of things. When it comes time with our partner, a lot of people don't think of scheduling that, but a lot of times that's exactly what we have to do.
Yeah, it's almost like stigmatized. Like if you have to like make it a date, it's almost like weird or something, but honestly it's really not that weird when life is busy. Like you just have to, and there should be no stigma associated with that. It doesn't mean you're failing in your marriage or you're weird or anything of that nature. It just means you're trying to survive.
Right.
You have a date night in the midst of it.
Yeah. And if it becomes predictable, then you can schedule around it, because every Friday night, that's our night together. Exactly. And so not to schedule something else on Friday nights. So it kind of creates that boundary to protect your relationship.
Absolutely.
So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you guys if they wanted to follow you or learn more about you, or anything you'd like to share with the listeners? What would that be?
Yeah, so I am pretty, as you said earlier, on Instagram. I love Instagram. I'm always on Instagram, and my handle is @JamieNOtis. My middle name is Nicole, so I thought putting my initial in there, so it's Jamie N. Otis. I thought that was smart. And then Doug is @Doug Hehner, Hehner. And then, of course, we have our podcast, Hot Marriage, Cool Parents, which is more of a sarcastic title, because like we don't have the hottest marriage, and we're definitely not the coolest parents, but we're trying our best over here. And yeah, you can listen to us wherever podcasts are, wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Great. And how long have you guys been doing your podcast?
It's been about 1.5 years we've had our podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's your experience been like so far?
It's been really, really great. It's a wonderful way to be able to meet new people like you. It's a great way to meet new people, to like to learn different experiences from different people. It's really been honestly, it's been therapy for my husband and I, because like we inevitably, life is busy. We have 2 kids, and I can't imagine people who have more kids. It's a very it's very time consuming. And so the fact that we have that hour each week that we sit down and we really connect with each other, it really is helpful. So it's turned into like this therapy session for Doug and I.
Yeah.
So it's like time for you guys to connect. It's time for you guys to connect, and everyone else gets to listen.
Yeah, and like exactly. It's kind of like you're a fly on the wall as we connect sometimes.
Right. Good. Well, thanks again, guys, for making time to be a part of the Marriage Steps podcast. Thanks for your transparency, for just being open and sharing. And I'm sure all the listeners will gain a lot from just the different things you guys have been through, because then they can learn from you. So I appreciate all your feedback.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us. We're so happy to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. You guys have a good day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Marriage Steps podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to click the 5 stars, leave a review, and share it with your family and friends. The more reviews I receive, the higher the podcast will appear on search results so more couples can find it. So please leave a review if you haven't done so already. For more marriage resources, go to my website, drwyattfisher.com. And if this podcast has made a positive impact on your relationship, I would love to interview you, because your story can inspire countless others. So if you have benefited from this podcast, if your marriage has gotten better, if you've fallen back in love, please email me. My email is info@drwyattfisher.com. And remember, your marriage is alive. So if you care for it, it will grow. But if you deprive it and neglect it, it will wilt and die. The choice is up to you. Take care.